Welcome everyone to the January 13th, 2016 meeting of the City of Brentwood Planning and Zoning Commission. So please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Rebecca Jacobs,
Here.
Jeff Moore,
Here.
Clint Lewis. Here. John Nuremberger is here. Sherry Bilderbeck.
Here.
Michael Daming.
Here.
David Devitt.
Here.
Jennifer Hansen.
Here.
Karen Smith.
Here.
Hart Nelson.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Nuremberger. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the December 9th, 2015 minutes? Are there any revisions to said minutes? Yes, Ms. Smith.
I have a question. So on page 2, under the staff report for the, this was for the 8071 and 8075 Manchester. I guess it's the second sentence in there. It says the conditional use permit was necessary for any building over 2 stories in the UD. The city code required a minimum parking requirement of 1.5 parking space per dwelling unit. I thought we had the requirement of 2, and maybe I'm misunderstanding something. I thought our requirement was that we have 2, and they're requesting to do 1.5.
I can make a clarification on
Mr.
that.
Strahler?
Only because the first thing on the agenda looks at that very issue, and pursuant to the city's code, section 1400E5 states that developments may reduce parking requirement to 1.5. Perhaps they were able to use that reduction, and that's why the parking's off.
Yeah, I thought, at least in the, I guess this was the application from previously from the last meeting, section 400.1600.b requires multifamily units to provide 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. And I mean, I'm just concerned that if we say it's 1.5, then, and it's,
That's the same on page 2.
is it?
This one's there.
Yeah, okay. Well, Ms. Smith, your point is duly noted. Anyone have an objection to tabling these minutes to the next meeting so we can get that sorted out? All right. Mr. Strahler, would you mind looking at that? In the
Not a
interim?
problem.
Thank you.
So consider by acclamation, those minutes will be tabled to the next meeting. I do want to take this opportunity to introduce Todd Strahler. Todd, can you take a minute to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, my name's Todd Strahler. I'm owner and principal of Strahler Planning. And got a call from Bola and Justin Weiss over the holiday break, actually Christmas Eve, and learned that Justin is moving on to Chesterfield. And the city had somewhat of a backlog of projects that Justin, of course, was shepherding. And Bola and the Board of Aldermen at their last meeting has retained my services to kind of fill in for Justin and keep these projects moving. So certainly the petitioners don't get delayed or any of the other projects get delayed. I've owned my own business for going on 10 years, and I'm a AICP certified planner. I've been providing similar services to what I'm providing to Brentwood, to several other municipalities here in St. Louis County and St. Charles County. I currently provide, planning advisory services to Weldon Spring, and also split half my duties writing comprehensive plans for cities as well, and also write zoning codes. So it's my pleasure to be here tonight to represent the city and to continue serving the city as long as they need my services.
Very good. Well, we're glad to have you, and we look forward to working with you. Okay, first item under old business, we'll take these 2 matters together, is a matter we took up at the last meeting, the application for a zoning map amendment and an application for conditional use permit at 8071 and 8075 Manchester Road. Mr. Hassenflug, please step forward and let us know what's happened since the last meeting.
Yes. Yes. Chair, Commissioners, how do you do? Gary Hassenflug, Garrison Companies, Kansas City, Missouri. Pleasure to be before you again tonight to give you an update of where we are. Since with the holiday getting away, there wasn't a lot to get done, but we got as much as practically could be done by now. We have We retained a team of Bax Engineering and E+A Architects and a landscape planner with Cole to pursue all the needs that were required here to get your plan approval. We've also had our architect do some elevations for you, and also lay out the screening of, or how we would have the condensers on the roofs. That was a point brought up by this body. And a few other items that I believe are addressed by Todd in this report. What we've found out since we retained Bax Engineering as our civil engineer is that MSD and the county and MoDOT all have a big say into what goes in on this property. And there are a lot of restrictions they have on this. Includes a future potential 72-inch line that goes right through the east third of our site. It includes limited accessibility on Manchester if the highway improvements get done there, so that our curb cut would have to move. It includes water detention areas needing to be above ground rather than underground, unless you use a bioswale. So all these are things that need time to get mapped out, and before we can bring you a real plan, a real development plan, so that you can make the appropriate recommendation to the city commission. But I'll be happy to, if there's any other questions you all have for right now, I'd be happy to entertain them.
So what's the timeline on these items?
Well, I have asked them to be, I've asked the team to be better prepared to bring in, more of a final drawing, what hopefully by then would be a final drawing by the 27th, which is the next meeting before the meeting you would be in February, where you would vote to recommend to the city commission. So hopefully that would be your informational meeting in order, and vet out whatever other questions or information you need before we come to that final one that you can recommend to the governing body.
All right, good. I know, and it was a request, we may as well take this up right now to move that January 27th subcommittee meeting to February the 3rd, the next week. Anybody have an objection to that?
I think I
Would
might
that-
have a conflict, but I can't remember right now.
Would that work for you, Mr. Hassenfeld?
So then, when would the meeting for the recommendation to the
February
governing
10th
body?
still.
Okay, then that's fine.
This is just our subcommittee meeting.
Got it.
Traffic study can be done by February 3rd as well?
I don't know.
I've been in touch with Lee Cannon over at CBB, and he got the notice to proceed. He's going to start gathering data, but again, it's a moving target because until we have a good engineered site plan, it's really hard to tell what the development constraints are and plus have meetings with MSD. So, he's gathering data, but his timeline is going to be very much tied to the delivery of that engineered site plan, getting the topo right, getting the floodplain limits right, and those things. But I'll certainly call them after this meeting or tomorrow, let them know that we've got a deadline of February, well, whenever the packets are due, probably the week before February 3rd, to give us a preliminary at least. But they'll be meeting with the county, they'll be meeting with the MoDOT, and those things are, again, those are one of the kickoff things that they're doing now.
Ideally, we'd like to have everything that you have at a subcommittee meeting, so we could take it up at the following general meeting. So if we can have everything by February 3rd, great. Otherwise,
I see no problem with that,
okay, good deal.
as long pending the traffic.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Hassenfeld, Mr. Nornberger?
I'm a little bit concerned about having only one site plan, meaning for a private project of this size. If there's any requirements that we're going to have to change the site plan or anything like that, for even landscaping and that sort of thing, having it be 7 days after our meeting is really a tight time frame for us to vote on, I think. And I know we're under the 70-day time limit or whatever, but we've already lost a whole month not having anything done this is the same information we really had the last time, and I think it should be, I think as the applicant, you would have to make the recommendation to extend the time limit or to waive the time limit to be able to go to have 2 site plan meetings,
Yeah.
basically. That's what I'm asking.
No, I think that's an excellent point. If we're not ready to vote on it, we won't vote on it. And I'm sure do you understand what he's referring to? The commission will need to act within 70 days of your application or it would be deemed approved, so we may need you to resubmit
If you
your
need
application.
to request at a future time for me to request an extension, sure, I'd be happy to do that too.
Well, it really depends on how much if you bring a site plan and everything's perfect, then we're really happy with it. It could be that it could be approved, but I'm saying just giving enough time to be able to digest some of the things or whatever, I think that would be, because you're gonna have much more information for us to look at before, you know.
No, it's a good point. Let's
Yeah.
cross that bridge when we come to it, but I agree with you. Anybody else have anything for Mr. Hassenflug?
I have
Yes, Ms. Jacobs?
This may be a little premature, given the fact that we've got a lot more things to figure out, but is the layout, is there just one entrance into the building?
Well, that's one of the things that'll change.
Okay.
There'll likely now be a western access point, close to the west property line, that will be full in and out. Because that's where the median break is gonna be in the highway improvement, once the highway's improved. And then,
Okay.
and then the one that you see now in the plan would be a right in, right out.
Okay, okay. 'Cause
And,
it
you know,
seemed-
this will be evaluated by the traffic engineer, and so he'll look into everything from stacking to you name it, to make sure there's aren't any issues here.
Okay, and is there a reason you're putting everything into one building as opposed to maybe like a couple?
Well, because we don't have
buildings?
room for any more. It's a.
Well, I mean, like dividing the building up into like 2 buildings or 3 buildings rather than one.
Well, that becomes an issue because we have such little land area here that any separation with multiple buildings will create just more of a parking problem.
Yeah,
And which would require more verticality and potentially, you know, a verticality over 6 stories, which wouldn't be in compliance with the UD regulations. So we already know that we're going to have to go up. We just don't know how far yet due to a parking garage on the bottom floors.
okay. It just seems like there's a lot of walking that would have to be done from your car to the building.
Well, there's going to be what's different on the plan now is there won't be any of that parking to the east.
Okay.
So what
Okay.
surface parking exists will be very close to the building now.
Okay.
And most of the parking will be in a parking facility underground and above grade.
Okay.
So knowing that what we have in front of us is not anywhere close to the final product, and we're going to be getting those plans, are there any other questions for Mr. Hassenflug? Ms. Bilderback?
I have 20, no, I'm just kidding. I just wanted to make the point because I don't know if it would be clear to the folks particularly that aren't here this evening that watch this on television later or YouTube or whatever, that the things that St. Louis County Highways and that MSD is doing, this is normal, this happens. It wouldn't be something that would be the fault of the applicant. We also were in the middle of the holidays, and these are bodies that have very particular requirements and their individual planning processes. So as we go through this planning process of our own, it's great that we get that information, that we have it factored in now. So for example, if the structure of the highway changes later and things are done differently with the roadways there, that it's accounted for now and we don't end up with a problem later. And I think that Mr. Nurnberger's point was a great one, and I love the idea of waiting to see, you know, because maybe we could get it done in time, but I greatly appreciate the applicant's willingness, if we get down to that point and we need more time with it, to ask for the extension. So mostly I just wanted to make the point that This is really normal with these governing bodies, and it's a tricky site as far as where it's located, and everyone wants to dot the i's and cross the t's. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Nurnberger?
One point that I thought we should bring up. Did you go down to the site during the flooding that just happened?
No.
I was just curious if there's any effect on your side or whatever. I know there was problems down low. I just think that should be something that's looked into before the whole property goes up, because that could be an issue.
Well, floodplain is an issue there.
Right.
So, and how it affects to our parking and the garage, the level the garage goes on too, is
Right.
all part of it too. And that'll be what will all come to you with all those answers at this later day.
That's fine.
But it's a great point. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just another of the many things on
Yeah.
the site that we have to deal with.
And that was not the issue when you first came in front of us or whatever.
No, it's becoming, more
Yeah.
of an issue.
Thank you. That's all.
Anyone else?
Maybe.
Yes, Ms. Smith?
I don't know if this can wait till site review or not, but, on the elevations, this was brought up to me by, another, a resident, but the elevations that we're showing for the proposed building structure versus the homes that are up behind there, it looks like, it's at the elevation of 480, which is kind of the high end, and I know that those lots slope down. So like one of them's at 468. I'd just be curious, and I don't know how you show that on these drawings that you have, but if it'd be possible to show where it comes in also at the lowest point, so that we can understand the impact of this structure on those residents that are going to be behind there, if that makes sense. And the other thing I'd asked Justin for, before he left, and I'm sure with everything going on with the holidays and his leaving, that this probably didn't get passed on, but I was curious to know what, and this is a city thing, but what, like the villas in Brentwood Forest have for parking, like are they 2 parking spaces per unit, or are they at the 1.5? So we can just use that maybe as a benchmark,
Yeah. No, it's
kind of
okay.
try to understand that.
Yeah. I know this, that, this I can tell you based upon all the information we've gotten
Right.
today from MSD and the MoDOT and the county, everybody, is we will have to have the 1.5 to 1 ratio
Yeah.
approved here.
Right, okay.
Which we think is definitely
Squeeze that on
doable
there,
for this.
okay.
The Cortona, and by Forest Park, in the Highlands area, they're at a 1.2, and they're not even next to a rail station.
Mm-hmm.
But between the rail station, and they'll tell you it's tight, but it's still at a 1.5, that's a lot more parking spaces. We got the rail there. It's going to be, all 1s and 2s, maybe a very small amount of 3s, so generally one-car households, I don't think it's going to be a problem, but I just do
I'd
want to
still
convey
like to
that.
understand if we could.
I do want to convey that to this body now, so they acknowledge the importance of that.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll get you an answer on that point, along the same point as what you made about the minutes. We'll get that clarified for the next meeting. Anyone else have anything for Mr. Hassenflue? Any member of the audience like to address the commission on this application? Yes, ma'am, please step forward and introduce yourself.
My name is Cheryl Rose, and I am a member of the St. Louis County Council on Disabilities. We are very happy to see apartment developments near Metrolink stations, because this is a great benefit to people with disabilities. But we also want to ensure and hope that the city will consider making the affordability issue, because much of the housing that's being put around Metrolink stations now, and that is available around Metrolink stations now, is not affordable to a lot of people with disabilities. So affordability is an important factor that we hope that you will consider. And also accessibility. There are requirements under the Fair Housing Act that everyone has to meet, but there are some additional requirements that we would love to see incorporated, such as some units that have roll-in showers for people in wheelchairs. And also, if you're going to be having some underground parking, that it be tall enough for raised roof fans to be able to use that facility.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rose.
Thank you.
Anyone
So,
else from
Mr.
the
Chairman,
audience? Yes, Ms. Smith?
Could I ask a
Sure.
question? I guess the sidewalks that maybe people would be using between this development and the Metrolink stop that we would hope that they would maybe take advantage of, do we feel that that is safe? I mean, that's a tight, I just wonder how many people are really going to be able to walk that, and if you've got someone in a wheelchair, I would not want them traversing
It's-
that right now. Unless you think with the proposed changes that might happen with that corner, we might see improvements in that.
My understanding from people who are very familiar with getting from the Metrolink station to the Goodwill, MERS Goodwill, that is not safe, and that needs to be looked at, but that would be an issue for either the county, whoever owns those roads.
Right. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the audience like to address the commission? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Pat Lackey, and I'm with the Commission on Disabilities with St. Louis County, too. And we're also working with the AGE initiative they have, the Aging in Place that the county is doing. And one of my questions is whether there's any MHDC funding in this particular, because it's an apartment complex, right?
Correct.
But whether there's any, because they've just expanded their requirements, MHDC has, as to what would be required on anything getting any MHDC money, including many more accessible units than have previously been done. So I just didn't know if we know if there's any MHDC money in this event.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Hassenfeld, do you know the answer to that question?
I know it.
Yes, I am familiar with MHDC and their guidelines and their requirements, and the answer is no, we aren't. But as to address disability and the need to take care of that tenant population, the answer will be yes. We will have some units with roll-in showers, with the 5-foot diameters, with everything they need to make it fully accessible and equipped. So all of our units will be accessible, adaptable, and we'll even have a certain percentage of the units actually equipped for physically handicapped.
Okay, great, good answer. Anyone else from the audience like to address the commission? Yes, sir.
Carl Carlin, neighbor. I just wanted to reinforce some of the things I said last time. I was glad to see the traffic study remains on the list. I personally am very interested in the outcome of that traffic study. I know that that's a very congested corner, and again, I'm all in favor of the project, but I don't want to see that turn into a major disaster, which it could easily do. Also, the question Ms. Smith raised about being able to tell relative elevations to the homes nearby, I think that is, again, addressed by a rendering from a point of view possibly at the intersection there. So I'm glad to see that the rendering remains on the list of things to do. I think that would really help. These sort of two-dimensional, images don't really tell the story. I think you need to see it from a point of view. I know that strip of Manchester east of Hanley is probably controlled by Maplewood, I guess. But that's a great place for a sidewalk. Excuse me, coming from the train station over to here now if we're going to do that, so we can't control that possibly. But the other thing I mentioned was just the consideration of sustainable elements. I mentioned some last time. There's others. I'd like to maybe see some kind of docket report on that. And then lastly, I don't know if we're considering as a city tax abatement for this project, if that's going to come up in a future meeting or a different meeting. But I've heard other people in the neighborhood sort of be a little bit concerned if we're going to increase density, which I think is a good thing for all the reasons mentioned, that, funding schools and things like that needs to be kept in mind. And I might not be personally in favor of tax abatement for such a thing. So if we're tracking that as part of this project, I'd like to have that on record. So.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. All right. Seeing no other hands, Mr. Hassenfeld, we'll see you February the 3rd at 6 o'clock. Okay, thank you. First item under new business is an application for site plan review for facade improvements at 2533 South Brentwood Boulevard. Is the applicant here? Will you please step forward, sir, and introduce yourself and your application?
I'm Bob Hagan and Bill Studi, my partner. We're the owner and developer of 2533 Brentwood Boulevard, and we're requesting a facade improvement for the building.
So let's get a 30,000 feet view tonight with the understanding that this almost certainly is deserving, it seems to be deserving, in my opinion, in any event, of a subcommittee review. But let's get a brief review, especially since we're on video here, so the citizens can see. And just walk us through the project and what you propose.
It's pretty straightforward, as you can see up there. Basically, what we're doing is we're adding on the north and south ends of the building, and also in the center, we're adding a extension of the parapet wall with the EFIS system, drive it. And what you see in the middle in between the EFIS system is green. The green portion is the existing brick. We'll be staining that green. Also, on the lower level, all new storefronts will be put in to match the existing storefront currently that exists in the Pasta Pronto building, if you've been to our space. And then furthermore, as you go south on from the building, there's a little patio, existing patio there, and we're basically going to do a temporary, not temporary, but we're going to do a monument on the south end of that and kind of tie that in with the building. Right now, it just looks like there's a poured hunk of concrete out there with some patio tables. We're trying to incorporate it into it so it's more inviting, like you'd see in traditional, more contemporary retail centers around town, be it in Brentwood or wherever. And that's pretty much about it. We bought the property back in September. We replaced the retaining wall. We redid the parking lot. For those who've eaten at the Pasta House, it was a disaster. So that's our plans, and that's what we're looking to do.
Okay, Mr. Stryler, staff report?
Yeah, this, again, the petitioner is asking for just a site plan review, essentially amending the facade as well as the outdoor eating area. As you all know, this location is right off Brentwood Boulevard. It's just under, it's 0.56 acres, relatively small site. It's an existing retail center. Best I can tell, the petitioner believes the facade might have outlived its usefulness, and they're just going to kind of lighten and brighten. We have mailed property owners within 300 feet of the subject site, notifying them of these changes, and we've had illustrations up at City Hall for folks to review. Again, we're going to go through the traditional site design issues step by step, some of which there's no changes proposed, such as the ingress and egress and internal circulation. Again, there's no modifications proposed. The changes, again, are to the facade. Perhaps when I'm done with the staff report, I do have a question perhaps about the entrance off Brentwood Boulevard that looks like maybe it's a pedestrian entrance that goes right into the alfresco dining area. I'm kind of curious what's going to go on there, but we can come back to that. Parking, nothing's being changed or modified to the parking. Same with the landscaping. The lighting, I assume there's going to be some lighting on the building, and that has not been brought to the attention of the city, nor is that shown on the plan. So again, that may necessitate another meeting, so we can look into that. The signage, again, that hasn't been shown, or at least I haven't been provided with dimensions. I think it would be mindful to maybe go ahead and get a sign package from the petitioner in conjunction with this facade enhancement, so we can maybe approve or review the signage at the same time. And then again, the architectural standards, I wasn't aware of any particular guidelines or standards that the city has, so I just articulated the best I could what changes were happening in the four elevations. The petitioner went through those changes, or the architect went through those changes, and I had one comment. One thing that isn't taken off or shown on the elevations is the base course material that the EFIS will be sitting on. EFIS is a relatively fragile type material that could break down over years, and it looks like there's a base course proposed. I wasn't sure if that was going to be a concrete block, so I would, Mr. Chair, if I could maybe direct a question to the petitioner with regard to that base course, and also what might be proposed for the sidewalk or ingress that is limited. I mean, obviously, cars couldn't get through that, but is that going to be blocked off, or what's going to happen with that?
Well, as far as the base course, if you look at illustration here. Oh, below the window is existing brick, and that, where you see on there that's green, that will remain there, and that'll be stained green to match the green on top. As far as the egress issue there, we haven't determined what we're doing there yet. We're still working with the architect on that issue.
We don't intend to use it.
Yeah, I figured you didn't. Now, what about the base course where the ephes takes place? I understand that the brick's going to be stained, but on the base of the monument and the base of all the ephes, the plan looks like it's shown there's going to be some sort of base course, and it's just not clear what that might be. Have you guys had a discussion about that?
No, we really haven't.
Okay.
But it's basically all brick behind it, except for the extension.
Correct.
So it'd be masonry behind it, except for the portion that we added, the column that we've added in.
Okay, but ephes isn't going to go all the way to the ground. You're going to have concrete block or split face or some sort of masonry material.
Well, at this juncture, we're still waiting for the final drawings from the architect.
Okay.
So we haven't really determined.
Okay.
But it'll be something like that.
If you don't mind, will the footprint, if you will, of the outdoor dining, will that change, or is that pretty much staying on that slab?
That's staying the same.
Same with the metal railing
Correct.
and ramp? It looks like there's some major changes along the cornice, along the top. Could you guys maybe explain some of those changes? And with the parapet, it's going to, kind of raise the primary facade up 2 to 3 feet, maybe give it a little bit bigger presence. Do you know the architect's mission or design intent on that?
That's basically what they want to do, is to give it, the building to the north of it is much higher.
Yeah, the furniture store maybe?
Yeah. and
Okay.
What was it originally? It was a theater or something? wasn't it?
Theater, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And Mr. Studi, can you step forward to the mic?
Sure.
Thank you.
So basically, we were just raising it to make it look more in conformance with other buildings. For example, across the street, the shopping center has a much higher elevation. This one was built in the late 40s. So we're just trying to upgrade it.
I did a site visit, and that's one of the things that struck me, that maybe you're trying to get some balance or continuity with the existing. And, it's a different look. It really brightens it up. I think I can see what the architect's trying to do. It may come in contrast with what is currently along Manchester Road and some of the stuff on Brentwood, but I think it's the direction that I think the city would like to see other commercial areas go with regard to reinvesting and trying to maybe give a more modern look, if you will. But
Well, one of the things that is a negative to the center, and I think part of the reason why they've had such high vacancy over the years, is the fact that when you come southbound on Brentwood Boulevard, with the building and the height of the building right next door that sits up onto Brentwood Boulevard, it's easy to pass by the center. So part of the reason we wanted to raise that parapet wall up a couple feet was to give some more visibility there. And the whole idea of extending that dining, not extending, but using the existing dining and bringing more presence there, more length of the building, would give it a little bit more street appeal, a little bit more visibility, if you will. So that was kind of the whole concept behind that.
one of the things I notice is that while you might be gaining some vertical relief, if you will, raising the facade, you're actually losing some horizontal. The banners and so forth aren't shown or not clearly shown on the exhibits that I was provided. Is that an intention? Are those awnings gonna?
Those really aren't banners or anything. What the architect did is he just wanted to incorporate the colors that Pasta House uses on their stores.
My question is, I think there are some awnings out there now.
Yeah, those
which
will go-
those come down, and
Those
there's
will come down.
nothing.
Those come down.
So there's nothing, let's say, projecting out that would go over the sidewalk?
That's correct.
Correct.
So again, I provided some descriptions of some of the changes to the best I could, noting the parapet, noting the monument wall. Again, the monument wall, I didn't look at the definitions in the city code, but the best I can tell, and I talked to the owner, the monument wall is where it really just frames the outdoor eating area, and it actually provides a structural base to affix the canopy that will be out there to sort of shade patrons out in the outdoor eating area, which again, it already exists. I think this just helps frame the space, shade the space, make it more comfortable for patrons. So the staff recommendation is to review the information in your packet and the information that was presented tonight, and I suppose make a recommendation to the full Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stryler. So we'll look forward to getting those final drawings. Are you also intending on presenting a signed package to the commission?
Yes, that is our intention.
Good deal. And does February 3rd at 6 work for you too?
That'll be fine.
Good deal. And give you enough time to get everything together?
Yep.
Good. Look forward to seeing you then. Any member of the commission like to address the applicant at this time?
I just had one comment that, I don't remember that there was actually outdoor dining that was approved the last time it came before us. I think it was, we kind of figured that was gonna happen, but I think we should check and make sure there's outdoor dining. I'm not opposed to it at all. I think it would be a great addition, and it's already existing. But I think it made sure it's written down in the CUP and that sort of thing, so.
This is not your first meeting.
Yeah.
I'll look into that, and obviously the related issue would be the parking, I suppose. So I could certainly look into that and get a better feel for how many tables or seats will be outside as well.
Great. Same number of tables as are there now?
We haven't discussed it. You know, I would assume it'd be the same, it's not gonna be any bigger.
Okay. Ms. Bilderback?
Love, love, love repaving the parking lot. Like, that's just fabulous, right? And I have been a customer as a resident of Brentwood at the Costa House. And I think that, I mean, obviously there'll be comments at the site plan meeting, but I think overall, my first impression is that I love that you guys are putting the money into it and making the improvements. I think it looks a lot better. I think it'll make the roof look better. It'll have a better appearance, and I really like what you're doing in general with the patio. I think it looks sharp, and having places to eat outside and attractive places to eat outside is appealing to folks, and as far as a streetscape along Brentwood. So I just wanted to offer that. I look forward to it, and yes, Mr. Chairman, I did remember what my conflict was for February 3rd, but that did just get canceled.
Good deal.
So I will be there.
Good deal. are you going to be submitting a landscape plan? Or can you submit a landscape plan?
Really, we're just going with the existing landscaping that we have there.
We don't have a lot of space for landscaping.
Okay. I'd like
There's
to
some
see it.
existing trees that screen, the backside of the outdoor eating area, but other than that, there's really not a lot of.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it.
There's
As
not
much
a lot
as you
of
can do in
landscape
that little area would be appreciated, given
We
that.
can do something in those areas.
Yeah, okay. Anyone else from the commission? Mr. Demmett?
Just a couple quick questions, following up on the I was going to ask about the landscaping. The lighting, it looks like under what we currently have with the Pasta Pronto are those, the green lights that extend out over the awning. Do you know whether your architect is intending to put any external lighting on the new building or the new facade?
We have really not gotten into it enough to know. Basically, part of it, our signage will go with the lighting.
Okay.
It really doesn't need a lot of light on front of the building, other than signage, because there's street lighting, and we really don't have any room to put any lighting that would shine on the building. So, as far as the exterior, we've already been talking. There was a Union Electric light, pole light, that we've gotten a brighter lighting there, and we're seeing if that'll work. We're also planning on putting lighting on the north wall pack, so that that's not dark over there.
Okay. But the drawings that we'll be getting will show those lights on there, I'm assuming.
Whatever lights, yeah, there'll be some
Okay.
lights somehow, but I don't know what it's going to be.
And the storefront windows that are proposed, is that just going to be clear glass?
It's going to match the existing ones that we have at Pasta Pronto.
Okay.
There's no new storefront proposed. You're reusing the existing storefront, right?
We're not using that glass.
Oh, okay, it's going to
They
be
look like
new
they're all new
glass.
storefronts.
It's
to me.
it's all new glass,
Right.
except
Nice.
for the pasta.
Okay.
And it probably will have some tint in it, but very light.
Okay. That's it.
Okay. Anyone else from the commission? Yes, Ms. Jacobs?
At the risk of sounding a little bit negative, I agree that the facade needs refurbishing. I drove by it several times since we got this, and it's sort of a building that disappears almost, like even if you were looking for it, you might have a hard time finding it. But this to me is something that I think you could see anywhere on Manchester, or it doesn't speak to Brentwood to me, which, there are a lot of buildings in Brentwood that don't speak to the small town community that I feel Brentwood is. And I wish there was a little bit more charm, for lack of a better word. I wish there was just a little more small town character in this. And that's the direction that I would see Brentwood going. I know we've got a long way to go, but a lot of the buildings were designed without regard to the buildings around it, I think, on Brentwood, and I was hoping that maybe the comprehensive plan would speak to that, so that there was more of a feeling when you drove through that, okay, this is Brentwood, this is the small town of Brentwood, and this doesn't say that to me, and so to me, I would much rather have something that was a little more charming. That's what I feel is needed, so that's just me.
Okay. Anyone else from the commission? Anyone from the audience like to address the commission on this application? Ms. Charbonneau, please step forward. State your name for the record.
You already know.
And speak your piece.
Louise Charbonneau, 8833 Madge. Regarding the existing tree on the south end of the building, it's about to lose its life because it's been girded by the wire that was put on when it was planted. So I don't know if you can get out there with your wire cutter and get that wire off that tree. I thought about doing it, but I don't have the strength anymore. Thank you, Ms. Jacobs. I appreciate your remarks and your sentiment, because that's my sentiment also. Those of us in the neighborhood who think of us as Old Town Brentwood, because Maddenville was at the corner of Brentwood and Manchester, would prefer, many of us, I can't speak for, would prefer to retain the look of Old Town Brentwood development. Even on Manchester Road, we would prefer to see something that would look like it was built in 1920, with maybe the living quarters above. The big box developments, especially following the recent flood, the big box developments are being looked at very strongly these days because of the runoff problems. We applauded the gentleman around the corner that restored that two-story building, cleaned it, restored the facade, finally got it rented or sold. And that is the look that I would prefer in our neighborhood. This is the first time I saw this, and no, it's a matter of taste, but garish is the word that comes to mind. So I will organize my thoughts for your next meeting. Additionally, I don't know about this monument, how far it comes out. You may all recall our concerns with trying to make a left turn, northbound turn from Madge onto the boulevard. And if that monument device or any new landscaping further restricts, we had a difficulty. I'm not up in an SUV, or I'm in a normal-sized car. There was one burning bush right at the corner that made it impossible for me to judge traffic. And if this monument wall in any way, because it breaks what you can see making that left turn, that's because, but anyway, I'll try to be more organized by site plan. Thank you.
She doesn't mince words. All right, thank you, Ms. Charbonneau. Anyone else from the audience like to address the commission? All right, seeing none, February 3rd, 6 p.m. We'll look forward to hopefully getting as much as we can well in advance, so we have an opportunity to look at it and against the site, and look forward to working with you. Thanks for the application.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Aldermanic report. Mr. Lockmuller, I see you back there. You got any report?
Nothing to report. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
City planners report, Mr. Stryler?
Sure, I've got an update. did you guys review the hair salon mesh? They came in for a conditional use permit, and they're working towards occupying the building right off of Manchester Road, right by Hensley Construction. It's an old residential home. The board looked at that, didn't have a quorum, and looked at it again. And again, we need to have a public hearing, which is coming up on the 19th. So we're going to take a look at that. And it's a hair salon that's actually moving from Rock Hill here, very established, appointment-only hair salon. They provide some other services. If you're interested, I'd certainly recommend you call them. But we're looking at a conditional use permit, as you know, that would be required for the use and for any use over, over an acre. So we're going to be looking at that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the conditional use permit was not voted on last week in front of the
No,
board?
we were waiting for the public hearing.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to have a public hearing before they can vote on it. That way we can hear what the folks have to say. And so we're going to table it, or it was suspended, or, it continued until the 19th. Again, so we'll have that. We're just kind of being as transparent and making sure that the neighbors have a chance to take a look at it. Parking is a challenge there. There's no parking on that site, so they had to get a cross-access easement and also get a parking agreement with the neighbor, who actually also owns the building. But this petitioner is going to buy the building and, like I said, put a hair salon there that can have 4 beauticians. Again, it's limited so much to parking. So that was kind of on the agenda, the board's agenda last week. And maybe you're familiar with Bomarito Wine.
Yep.
They were approved last week as well. They had done some amendments to their site plan, and they formally got approval to those very minor amendments. And those were the only 2 items that I really have to present. Most of our time has been working with the petitioners that we talked to tonight, and we'll continue working with them. So we're prepared early on. I'll make sure the packets get out early, so you have a chance to see some of the correspondence with regard to some of the exhibits that start coming in.
Have you had an opportunity to get up to speed on the comprehensive plan process?
I inquired about that, and pursuant to what Justin had to say, there hasn't been much movement on it, but I've not called the consultants that are working on it. I could certainly look into it and report back.
Very good. Look forward to hearing from you. Okay. Any questions for Mr. Strehler? All right. Subcommittee, February 3rd, 6 p.m. Everybody can make it? Great. Rationale, Mr. Strehler doesn't look like we have anything to present to the board from this meeting agenda. Any other business?
I was
Mr.
just curious if there's any updates on the flooding that happened, mentioned it, about any of the businesses that have come for any changes to their site or anything like that?
I'd have to defer to Hope or even Bola or anyone else. I haven't heard. I haven't been manning the phones here at City Hall, so I really don't know. But I think that's a great inquiry, as well as how the site did it handle.
Because I know one of the sites is the lawn care equipment, and they were doing improvements to the site, so I'm sure that's been changed or put back or whatever, and that sort of thing. So I would like maybe an update
Next time.
next time. That would be great.
Any other business? Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, stand adjourned.